Chapter 16, Section 1 continued. During this time period, the U.S. is going to have a strong, growing economy. And a lot of that is going to be due to that immigrant contribution. It's going to be very important to our strong, growing economy. But not everybody saw it like that. Some people saw immigration as a threat. The immigrants were too different to fit into our society. Their religion was different, their language was different. And you're going to start seeing what becomes known as nativists. The nativists, they were mainly against immigration. Us native people, even though we weren't native here, everybody except for Native Americans came from somewhere else. Us people here should be the people that are here, and all these immigrants are too different. The nativists, they blamed the immigrants for social problems like crime and poverty and violence and spreading radical, crazy ideas. Even though last time I checked, these problems existed before the immigrants came here. It wasn't their fault. Other nativists had economic reasons. They're coming here and they're stealing our jobs. They're causing wages to go down because they're willing to work for any pay they can get to survive. And you're going to start to see a lot of labor unions call for immigration restrictions. Let's talk about a specific labor group, the Chinese laborer. The Chinese laborer had been tolerated for years, even taken advantage of at times. We used the Chinese laborer. But the Panic of 1873 is going to bring a lot less tolerance. As we went into this depression and people needed more jobs, they didn't want the Chinese laborer having those jobs. They wanted those jobs. You're going to see a group called the Workingmen's Party of California come onto the scene in California. And the bottom line of the Workingmen's Party of California is they wanted the Chinese gone. They wanted the Chinese out of here. The leader of the Workingmen's Party is going to be Dennis Carney. Now, ironically, Dennis Carney was an immigrant himself. He was an Irish immigrant. But he's going to go around the state, California, and he's going to give these anti-Chinese speeches across the state. And a lot of times after his speeches, mobs would attack the Chinese. You'd have Chinese property burned. You'd have some Chinese killed by the mobs. The Chinese are going to look to the law for help. They can't be destroying our property. They can't be killing Chinese people. But the help doesn't come. Actually, what happens in California is kind of the opposite. The state constitution is going to be changed. It's going to be amended. And it's now going to forbid the Chinese from even working certain jobs, and they can't own property. You don't have to worry about your property being burned if you aren't allowed to own property. This was just in California. But on a national level, you're going to have the Chinese Exclusion Act passed by Congress in 1882. The Chinese Exclusion Act denied citizenship to people born in China. If you were born in China, you could not be a citizen of the United States. And it prohibited immigration of Chinese laborers. No more Chinese laborers coming here. This act actually makes things worse, because what happens because of this act is the violence against the Chinese that are already here is going to increase. But the thing is, neither that act or the violence is going to stop Chinese immigration. Many still came, and they're going to be held for months at the immigration stations like Angel Island. You're going to have other groups, organizations develop, furthering the discrimination against the Chinese. For example, you got the Immigration Restriction League, which they wanted a literacy test for immigrants. If you can't read or write, in English, obviously, you can't come. And the crazy thing is, Congress passes it. Congress passes a requirement for a literacy test for immigrants. But the president, Grover Cleveland, vetoes it. Congress tries again over the next few years to get this passed again, but they never have enough votes again to get this passed. And despite all of these efforts, against immigration continues. Um, you can see on the chart there's a huge rise. Obviously, you're going to have some ups and downs, and you're going to have a huge dip once you get to the 30s with the Depression. But for a long time there, immigration kept going up and up. And immigration is good. It was good for the U.S. I mean, the U.S. was able to rapidly industrialize. This was only possible with the immigrant worker. We needed more workers, millions more workers. Another thing that's going to make immigration great for the U.S., it's going to bring a new dimension to American life. You're going to have new ideas being brought in here by immigrants. You're going to have variety being brought to our culture by all these different groups of immigrants coming